When this year ended, that basically, like we said about Lucchesi, it was just the end of your career, basically. So how was there really just a moment where you decided, like was it when this team, the contracts ran out or the salaries ran? Did you just decide one day that's it, never again? Were you ever close to coming back? Did you ever think about joining a team again?
No, never. Like I felt like the edge I had towards like on the top level before I went to the military. I never felt that I got that. I was okay. I was like I felt that from maybe a top 5 player to a top like 30 player when I came back. But being a top 30 player, it wasn't. I didn't really thought that was enough. It wasn't. Like I didn't feel that I became better. Like every tournament, I feel that I was a little worse than the previous one. So, and I felt like this is probably the reason why I don't have like this this spark anymore. I'm training, playing CS like probably 1/3 or at least half of the hours every week compared to the other good or really good Counter-Strike players. So I know that when the more time goes by, the less competitive I will be at the highest level, and not playing at the highest level wasn't even a choice for me. And I know that it was like you had all this, the Las Vegas tournament. So when we were in LA, we played the CPL winter and came 4th, and then we were gonna play another big tournament. Yes. I don't know the name.
CyberX Games. It was the one where they promised like 100,000 for first or something.
Oh yeah, so
everyone was focused on it. But it was the one that failed, and everything went to shit. Right?
Yeah, everything. They couldn't like handle the network or something. It was terrible. And then I know that they promised us like, oh, you can get $10,000 each if you play this show match. I think it was we played against I think it was NIP in a like CO rule game or something. And so we played that game. I don't know who won it, but we never like saw the money or anything like that. And and this wasn't the first time that we didn't get the money, or we got them like years later or something like that.
Yes.
So like the scene itself, I didn't see any future in actually playing, and I felt like if I'm not a top 5 player anymore, there's no way I can live on this like playing Counter-Strike. And I was done with my high school, and I know like the next step for me is actually going to the university.
Would it have changed it if you'd have won like a big tournament or something? Would that have changed anything, you think?
Yeah, if I had the same feeling that I did like the first couple of years when I actually felt I could beat the best players, like the confidence was so high, like skill wise, that I can actually beat these guys, and that kind of motivated me a lot. I know that I like to being the best and perform at the highest level, but when I felt like every tournament I was a little worse than the tournament before, like the last year. I think my motivation, instead of like, oh, now I'm really gonna put in the effort to become the best, it went the other direction. So I think in general, I just thought that other stuff in life was as fun or more fun at this point. So I knew that like my motivation and the effort I put into Counter-Strike is not enough to be a competitive pro player, and I know that I wanted to be something in life anyway. So studying civil engineering, it's probably the right decision here in the long run, even if it felt it was, of course, it felt like leaving everything and all the fantastic life you have around being a professional Counter-Strike player. It would be the right decision in the long run, and I'm really happy with that decision today, for sure.
One reason I actually wouldn't blame you as well that this is the time period you quit is because actually the first generation of players, people have to understand the scene was a lot less developed back then. So for example, this last year you played was one of the first years where there was actually getting to be like a proper circuit. It wasn't just like the 2 CPLs in Dallas, maybe like 1 or 2 European things. Like now you had like, obviously you had the World Cyber Games, but that was only one team from Sweden. So if you weren't NIP, basically, you didn't get a go. Then you obviously had, later on tournaments came, like ESWC came along. So like this is when initially officially it was becoming so you don't have to just be in the best team to be a pro. So and if people don't know, back then when it was just smaller tournaments and you had to be the best, the vision also was like, first of all, it's not like Quake games had lasted 10 years. They'd been around themselves 4 or 5 years tops. So people were sort of thinking, look, maybe Counter-Strike, the game dies in a year or two. Maybe this is it. And we go to, I don't know, Counter-Strike 2 or some other game. Obviously, people were trying to hype other games. And also, there was the logic of like, there wasn't a huge circuit. Like, it wasn't like, if people know, it was actually the year or two after this where people came along who, when they became pro, had like 7-year careers or maybe even kept going into CSGO, like Forrest and those guys. They came along when it was a developed scene and you could just be a pro. And it was like, right, I am going to do this for as long as possible. And if you were really lucky, maybe even extended till now. So back then, it also, like, people might think it's silly to quit then, but it was a different world, right? No one could see the future.
For sure, and I think in general, like all the players jump between the teams, and people just played for a couple of years and then disappeared, or like 1 or 2 tournaments, and they realized that this game weren't for me, or something like that. Like, so it was very, what you said, fragile at that point, the whole scene. And I mean, you played for maybe 2 or 4 tournaments a year. It was CPL Winter, CPL Dallas, and then you had this ESVWC thing, and this big, like, the ones that you mentioned where Nipwords was going and win every year. That was basically the bigger thing, and you didn't have like a solid salary as well.
Yes.
So if you didn't win these, you didn't have enough money to live by yourself, basically. So,
and by the way, I can't stress enough the point you said as well about like getting the money. It might look great on the record to be like, wow, we came 3rd in CPL Dallas, we get like $15,000. Like, you might have to wait 6 months to get that, and that's sometimes if you ever got it. Sometimes the money just never came.
Yeah. I know that. I know that. I think 2 or 3 of these. I was checking my like Wikipedia and look at these like prize money. And I think 2 or 3 of these I didn't ever get. I think it was either eaten by the organization or we didn't get them at all. Or, but yeah, it was a struggle back then to like it was too many people like trying to scam the.
Oh, of course.
Like the teams, both the teams themselves, but also the tournament organizers.
That's even the part people probably don't remember as well. Obviously, people know now from some of the stories that the organizers sometimes didn't pay out, or they didn't get the sponsor money themselves and did pay out. But yeah, the team part's the part I even forgot myself. In the modern day, by the way, not only do the players get the salary and the prize money's huge, they keep all the prize money. Like back then, depending on what your org is, your org sometimes might take half the prize money, or like you say, maybe they just take most of it and they say, well, you know, like we have to cover the costs, because back then they didn't have huge sponsors. They weren't making that much money themselves.
No, for sure not. So and we were like young guys. We didn't know. We were happy to have like a flight ticket and somewhere to stay and then play Counter-Strike because it was so fun. I didn't think about like contracts and like how about suing someone? Like that was not even close.
No one even ever did that. No, not at all.
No, for sure. Like if the money didn't came, they didn't came. So.
Oh, you just reminded me of another detail there as well. The first like official contracts in Counter-Strike, I think, was signed in like 2004 or something crazy like that. So if people, or 2003. So if people don't know, the early years there wasn't even a contract. You were just in a team. Oh. You go to the tournament, you win the money. That's also why it'd be hard to even sue them, right? It's not even like a legal document you signed to say you're in a squad. So even though it sounded like it was pro, we all called it pro gaming. It was actually quite amateurish, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's what one of the reasons. Like I felt when I was standing there 2004, we came like 5th or to 8th place, and we got a couple of $1,000 that I'm not sure we ever saw. And I was like, is this the life I'm gonna have now, or am I moving on and do something else with my life? And I remember it wasn't that of a hard. I felt bad, but it was quite an easy decision to end this.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.